everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, the weekly podcast that helps you grow your business, improve your life, and enjoy yourself along the way. I'm your host, Alan Langer, and every week we try to bring you the best thought leaders, the best business leaders, and the best minds out there to help you succeed in business and in life. So sit back, relax, grab your pad, your pen, and your favorite beverage, and enjoy the next episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is your host, Alan Langer, and we are at episode number 15, and we have got an amazing guest today. You guys are going to really enjoy the depth and the experience of this guest. We've got Dan Tyre from HubSpot. And for folks who don't know Dan, and there's not a lot of people out there who don't, Dan is one of the original sales gurus and marketing gurus. And we're going to talk about a lot of the things that he has innovated over the years. But Dan was actually one of the, I think he was the first salesperson that HubSpot ever hired. And that was in May of 2007. And since then, there's over 750 salespeople at HubSpot. So pretty cool stuff. He has a mentor program called the Tyre Mentor Program. He's a public speaker talking about motivation and how to increase your business. And he also is a best-selling author. So I don't want to I can talk for an hour on his bio, but the guy is amazing. Dan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me tonight.
I'm going to take you on the road with me, Alan. That was awesome.
You're really impressive, and I really want to thank you for joining me on this podcast because, you know, your experience and everything it's just above and beyond many people that I speak to, but I'm really appreciative of you joining us and helping the people who are listening in. So give us a little background about, you know, what HubSpot actually is and how you started, 13 years ago and where you are now.
Yeah, so I was the first salesperson for HubSpot. And over the last 40 years, I've done 5 startups. My first startup went to $1.5 billion, probably before you were born. Actually, it's a very funny story. You'll realize in this podcast, right, I have a lot of funny stories. I'm the luckiest guy in the world, right? I've been married 30 years, 29 great years, 1 mediocre one, which my beautiful wife, Amy, she lets me stay from the stage, right? As you mentioned, I do a lot of public speaking, so I got my jokes down. I always ask at the beginning of the presentations, do you want more jokes? Do you want more content? And what do you think people always say?
Jokes.
Yeah, that's what they always say, which I'm happy to provide. I'm like, don't you want to listen to the jokes first? Don't you want a little sample? And they're like, no. It's a hard year. 2020 is like a hard year. Just move it with the jokes. So
Absolutely.
I got a lot of those. But it's super fun to go all over the world and to help folks. I was an accidental entrepreneur, right? I worked my way through college selling books door to door. So I had a little bit of a sales background. Mm-hmm. And 1982, I took a job selling computers in Boston. I sold Apple IIe's, right?
Wow.
In 1982, I know. And it was just luck, right? I needed a job. I walked into one of the 12 retail stores in downtown Boston and say, are you looking to hire salespeople? And they were. And I worked there for a year. I was a top selling salesperson. And then my manager, Roger, came to me and said, I'm quitting. I'm like, why? He goes, I'm moving to a startup. I'm like, what's a startup? He's like, it's a small company that's going to grow quickly. I'm like, all right, well, have a good time. He goes, no, I want to bring you with me. I'm like, I got a job. He's like, I'll pay you $1,500 more a year. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a startup guy. So I started this company, or with this company, Businessland. They were like $2 million. And over the next 9 years, they grew to $1.4 billion. And I worked in Boston and Framingham and LA and San Francisco and New York. And it was a blast. It was amazing. And of course, in the early 90s or 80s, when people were buying computers, right, they either bought them from IBM. Apple wasn't what Apple is now. Or they bought it from a computer retailer, right? And Mark Cuban, that was his first business, and it was a fascinating way of understanding how to scale a business. Because when we started, it was a very lucrative business, 40-point margins, At the end, it was 8-point march. It was completely different. In 9 years, I flipped on its head. So after 9 years, I decided I wanted to go into business for myself. I started my own agency. In my dining room, I raised a little bit of capital, and over the next 9 years, I built a $30 million, 6 locations across North America.
This was advertising agency, marketing, or marketing?
It was a collaboration company, a software agency around a technology called Lotus Notes. You ever hear of Lotus Notes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so I timed it perfectly. It was just flat out luck, right? Right when they launched Notes 3.0 is really when it became into vogue. And it was collaboration software. And back in the 90s, based on Y2K, you either moved to Microsoft Outlook or you used Lotus Notes.
Right.
And Notes was a superior collaboration system. So people wanted more collaboration. And I had my last stint at Businessland. I was working in Manhattan for a San Jose-based company. And so it was, I spent my life on the phone trying to get people to respond. So I was highly attuned to collaboration, like how to work together rather than just point-to-point communications. And so it resonated very well with me. I did a little bit of market research. I talked to 100 of the contacts that I knew, and they said, I don't really know what Lotus Notes is, but if you decide to start the company, let me know. And so I did, and I let them know, and we were off and running. The company scaled very, very quickly, another hyper-growth company, and then sold it to a Phoenix-based company in 1997. I was on their board of directors. I was the EVP of sales. It was super fun, great culture, super impactful. My third startup went bankrupt, which was, it sounds horrible. I don't mean to laugh, but. Yeah. No. It was horrible. I couldn't sleep for 6 months. I was bunched up. It was horrible. And there was a variety of different reasons for it, but it taught me business planning and humility. And it was amazing. Yeah. It was, I've since helped, I'm going to say dozens of companies move into receivership or bankruptcy. Right? Once you do it once, there's like a process to it. And it is emotional when it's your own baby, but if you have somebody else who helps you through that process, it can be very impactful and therapeutic. And then my fourth startup got bought out by Microsoft. And that was Groove Networks, also started by Ray Ozzie, the inventor of Lotus Notes. And this was, I think, his second or third company. And some of the people who worked with me at ALI Technologies were working at Groove Networks. And they said, this is amazing technology, except it's really hard to sell. And I took that as a challenge. And I worked with Jim Wilson and Brian Halligan. The company got bought out by Microsoft. And when that happened, Brian went to MIT. I worked for Microsoft for a year. And Brian Halligan was the VP of sales at Groove Networks. He met Dharmesh at MIT, decided to start HubSpot. And he calls me in 2006. He called me up and he goes, Tyre, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm president of a software company here in Phoenix. He goes, I'm doing this startup. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like
another startup.
Exactly. And he's like, I want you to join. And I'm like, I live in Arizona. He's like, this is going to be big. I'm like, what is it? And he explained the business model. I'm like, wait a second, you can get on the first page of Google without paying Google. He's like, yeah. I go, there's not a CEO in America who wouldn't buy that. He goes, that's what we're hoping. He goes, but the software doesn't work that well. So we need a good salesperson. And will you join? And I'm like, I can't be in Boston. I got 2 kids. I can't be in Boston 4 times 4 weeks out of the month. He's like, ask your wife. So I'm like, Amy, can I be in Boston 4 weeks out of the month? She's like, no. I look up. She's like, no. I mean, I'm like 3 weeks out of the month. She's like, no. I go, how about 2 weeks out of the month? She's like, no. And she's not being mean. She's just like you're a dad, you're a husband.
Yeah.
Like, so I go, how about 1 week out of the month? She's like, maybe. So I call back Halligan. I can do it, but I can only be there 1 week of the month. He goes, it's 2007. We'll figure it out. And in the interim, they hired Mark Roberge, who is the vice president of sales. He's got a book called The Sales Acceleration Formula. Yep. And I'm Mark's biggest fan, right? We worked together for 7 years, right? He was one of the best vice presidents of sales I've ever worked with. Empathetic, super smart, super like problem solving. And he brought HubSpot from 0 to $100 million. And then he wrote the Sales Acceleration Formula explaining how. And it was so much fun because he was so smart. He understood exactly how to calculate the changes in buying behavior. And he was really the giant behind the thought leadership, the understanding, the transition from like traditional sales pre-2007 and post-sales 2007. And I always say in every interview and podcast that I do, everything changed in 2007, right? Mm-hmm. And HubSpot was a little bit lucky, but very like fortuitous, also very innovative in understanding the fundamental change in buyer behavior. Because pre-2007, right, salespeople were the king of the jungle, right? We owned everything. We got all the compensation, we got all the glory, we got all of the value because we did most of the sales process. And when you wanted to scale your business, you hired somebody like me, right? Somebody who would go out and take 90% of the budget. We'd buy field salespeople. And if you wanted to influence your revenue, if you wanted to grow, you invested in sales. And marketing was always in the doghouse. It was pretty funny. Marketing, pretty much 90% female, right, was a built-in excuse. So if I wasn't growing, it was always marketing's fault. And I would like throw them under the bus. They're not giving me enough leads. That's why I can't like sell more stuff. Or they're giving me too many leads. I don't know which ones to call, which is the dopiest thing ever, right? But that's what we did. And marketing would establish the brand and then they would do the lead gen, right? And sales would do 90% of the work. So we got 90% of the budget, all of the glory. We got all of the like visibility. But in 2007, it was a seminal year for the change in buyer behavior. And that was really the first year where people started to use Google and Bing and Yahoo, like start researching things online. In the old days, now all your young listeners are going to say, well, is this guy my grandfather? They're going to make fun of us because pre-2006, if you wanted to buy something, Alan, how did you do it? How did you buy something before the age of the internet?
You actually visited the brick and mortar store.
I know.
And you listened to the salesperson. And that's why people hate salespeople, because that perception is you hope that the guy or the girl was telling you the truth. And usually they weren't. And they were ripping you off, basically.
Yeah, that wasn't perception. That's the way it rolled, right? You had to go into a retail store. My son's here with us during quarantine, right? Usually he lives in California, moved back to Arizona right after the pandemic. And I think he's on a first name basis with Jeff Bezos. I get 11 packages every day from Amazon. The doorbell's going to ring 4 times during this podcast. If somebody dropped, there's like a pile of stuff like that. I don't know if he ever goes into a store, right? He gets his groceries delivered. He gets light bulbs delivered. And that is a much different process. Right? Than you did in 2006. You walked into a store. A guy in a little blue polo would come up and say, Alan, what are you looking for? And you're like, I'm looking for, I don't know, a dishwasher. And he said, well, Alan, are you ready to make the purchase today? And you'd be like, I'm not really sure. I just need to know, can I put it in the back of my truck? Does it come in white or gray? And the salesperson was the center of the universe, right? Yeah. Salesperson would put you through a sales funnel. It was annoying as heck. Right. And that's why sales has the like worst reputation. When you look at the credibility studies, I have a slide in my public presentations of the least trusted professions in North America. What do you think is the most trusted profession in North America?
The most trusted?
I'll buy you a breakfast sandwich if you get this right.
The most trusted? Oh, I thought you were going to ask me the most mistrusted, because I was going to say contractors.
Well,
I would say contracting followed by salespeople.
The least is marketing. Right? The second least is salespeople, right? You trust, according to HubSpot research, you trust your barista 4 times more than you trust sales car marketing, right? The woman you buy a $4 coffee from, you trust more than a salesperson. Number 1, guess what number 1 is?
Boy, I don't know. Your doctor.
That's good. Doctor and nurse are in the top 4. It's actually fireman. Right? I guess when a fireman says, get out of the house, you got to
you're going to get
I just thought that was interesting, right? It wouldn't have come in my top 50, right? But anyway, that trust factor is low because salespeople would do unscrupulous things. And I was one of them, right? I will freely say for the first 30 years of my life, I put you through a sales funnel. I would ask qualifying questions, right? I would say, well, it's just a priority for you, Alan, and you didn't have any choice. Right. And then in 2007, you had all the choice, right? With the opening of the internet. The current statistic, I think, is 93% of all purchases, B2B and B2C, start with either social media search or an online search. Right? Does that pass your sniff test, 93%?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
you know
what the other 7% do? The other 7% are in the friggin' airport or something like that.
Right. Exactly. Or,
Right?
or they're 85 years old and they don't have the internet, and then they, ask their daughter where to get the stuff.
Guess what? The fastest growing demographic for online is over 80. Right?
Oh,
What else you going to do in a global pandemic? Oh, let's check out this internet. Let's see if it's really a thing. Right? And so this is like an earth-changing transformation, where in the old days, salespeople were the center. Now, right, your browser is the center. Now, the balance of power goes over to the buyer, right? And HubSpot timed that perfectly. So the whole inbound revolution is no, salespeople are much different than some of the questions we talked about in the briefing meeting, right? Salespeople used to be in control of the sales process. Now the customer has to be in control of the sales process. Now you have to set up your sales organization so you're helping, not selling. Right? If I call you and say, Alan, I work with podcast folks who are trying to get broader reach and want world-class speakers for their podcast. Does that sound like you? What would you say?
I say yes.
Exactly. You'd be like, how do you know all that? In 2 minutes, right? You and I actually met because we were on the same virtual presentation for Flair Interactive, right? But in 2 minutes, I can find that out. I can pick up the phone. I can call you multiple times. I can send you a video email. Or what you did is you send me a video on LinkedIn. I'm like, this guy out with the cool looking microphone and the nice background. And then we connected. 15 minutes later, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do your podcast. And boom, now we're ready to go. Right? That's the way you do business in the 20th century. Now, right, if you're following modern sales practices, which it's helping, not selling, right? Yeah. It's engaging in a way where if I ever tried to qualify you, if I started pushing HubSpot and say, no, Alan, I think you should use this technology because it's better for you. First of all, that's just stupid because you know you better than yourself. Number two, I haven't done a discovery. I don't know if I can help you or not. Third of all, right, the whole inbound revolution is all about, all I want to do is I want to help you for 10 minutes. Yeah. And most people would prefer to be helped rather than sold to. And that's the advantage of HubSpot and the advantage of inbound. Our co-founder, Dharmesh Shah, who's like the Buddha of HubSpot, right? It's like, if you want to make $1 million, you help 1 million people ask for $1. And success is making everybody who supported you look brilliant, right? Yeah. And we're constantly trying to find ways that we can help you for free, right? HubSpot has these millions of, we have a free CRM, we have free sales software, free marketing software, free services software, because that's the right way to do it in 2020. And we know that people really like it.
Well, you basically summarized my entire book in that little soliloquy there, because that's what my book is. The 7 Secrets is about helping people, not selling people, and how to do that. And I actually talk about a part where, like, one of the things, the online thing, I'm convinced the online thing, obviously it was convenience, but also people don't want to talk to salespeople. So this was like, oh my God, this is great. I don't have to talk to someone. You go to when you buy a car now, you design your car online. You walk into the dealership with a piece of paper and say, here's my car. I don't want to talk to you. This is what I want. And it's just like such a great defense mechanism. And you're right, the buyer is in complete control today.
Well, that's a great example, right, of the balance of power. It's even better than that, right? Here in Phoenix, we have Carvana. Do you know Carvana?
Yes, it's like a vending machine for cars, right?
Yeah, they'll deliver the car to your driveway, right? Maybe. And they'll give you the keys. You have it for a week. If you don't like it, you drive it back to the vending machine, right? And it is amazing. And we live in an unbelievable world where sales has changed dramatically, right? It used to be that we were trying to move people through the funnel to close deals. And sales is still hard, but it's just different, right? You got to be smart,
it's different,
right? You got to listen, right? You've got to make sure that you understand that the buyer is in control. You have to be empathetic. You have to be coachable. And sales has an image problem based on what you talked about, right? But, right, teaching salespeople that, first of all, they're just like a surgeon, right? The key is, if you're a good salesperson, you're going to size up what somebody needs. You're going to take your background and experience, and you're going to understand where somebody is, right? Then you're going to offer to help, right? And there's a variety of ways to do that, right? A modern salesperson leans into the technology and leans into the way that they can help people the most often, right? For me, I like to say that I want to rise like a genie from your keyboard, right? Exactly when you need me, right? I don't want to be intrusive. right? But I want to use all the modern kind of techniques to make sure that I'm ready when you are. And if you use a modern CRM like HubSpot, right, we have what's called lead notification. And so I know when you're on my website. I'm notified when you're on my website. And I know when you're looking at the pricing page. I know when you open my email. So now I can pick up the phone and I go, Alan, this isn't too creepy, is it? And you're like, who is this? And I'm like, this is Dan from HubSpot. You're like, it is a little creepy because I just opened your email. I'm like, yeah, I kind of knew that. Right?
Yeah.
What were you looking for help with? That's the line. What were you looking for?
And that's such a great segue. That's just a great introduction right there.
I know. Who doesn't want to be helped? And then it's even better than that, right? Today, we teach that you have to understand personality characteristics.
Yes,
so if you have a PhD and you're not into the big Dan Tyre energy, right, I'm going to ratchet it way down. There's going to be lots of spaces, and I'm going to use tons of multi-syllable words. I'm going to modify my behavior. There's a great company in North Carolina called Crystal Nose. Have you ever heard of Crystal Nose?
No, I have not.
Okay, so Google it. It's a plugin that looks at your social media and will tell you the personality characteristics of the person you're talking to, right? Because in 2020, right, there's a variety of different levels that you're dealing with. And if you're an expert salesperson, you want to deliver the information at the right time in the right fashion that resonates the most with your target person, right? So are you familiar with DISC profile? DISC,
yes. Oh, yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So understanding somebody's DISC profile. Some people love the big Dan Tyre energy, right? Some people on your podcast are going, this guy is incredibly annoying. And I apologize for that in advance. You said you wanted the big energy. Lots of people in the live show or the virtual show, that's what they want, right? They want to understand a little bit about delivering this change in buyer behavior, understanding the new ways of Smarketing, right?
Yes.
Say it, Alan. Say Smarketing.
Smarketing.
Smart. You gotta say
Schmark. Oh, it's got
like you're from Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Marketing. Gotcha. Okay.
On your second try, that's actually pretty good. Which is a term I invented in 2007 with Mike Volpe, he was our first vice president of marketing for HubSpot. He was employee number 3. He was a great guy. And now he's the CEO of Lola, a travel expense company in Boston. And it was the early days of HubSpot. So like now, HubSpot traded on the New York Stock Exchange, 4,000 employees, traded or software sold in 130 countries worldwide. Unbelievable. Back then, we had 6 employees, right? And like the process was you had to bring in 10 new customers every month, right? And it wasn't like HubSpot software today. HubSpot software today is beautiful, has an unbelievable UI, works flawlessly, like has tremendous uptime. Back then, it was, let's just say it wasn't quite as good. And so the software cost $250, right? And a salesperson, we hired a salesperson every month and we had to sell 10 units every month, right? And so I, at one point in time, would work with Roberge to hire all the salespeople, train all the salespeople, and teach them like how this motion worked. And in the early days, we didn't have any inbound leads, right? We just put up our website. Right? We were just trying to prove the concept. And so I would like essentially cold call for HubSpot. Don't tell anybody, right? Because HubSpot's like the anti-cold calling, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's what we did, right? And then like in the 3rd month, we started to get these inbound leads. So I'd call you up. I go, Alan, I saw you came to the website. I saw you downloaded that ebook. What were you looking for help with? Right? And they'd say, oh, yeah, I remember HubSpot. And it was amazing because, in most sales work, right, 90% of your time, effort, and anxiety is prospecting, right?
Yeah.
It's hard and it's difficult. So when you like cycle into somebody and they go, oh yeah, I did download that. That shows intent. That greatly accelerates the process. It gives you something to talk about, right? It is an amazing transformation, which is the basis for the inbound revolution, right? The first person to write the term inbound was this guy, David Meerman Scott. Do you know David Meerman Scott?
I've heard of him, yes.
Okay, so if you want another podcast interview, he is awesome. He's written 5-6 books. He is a tremendous author, speaker, and he wrote The New Rules of PR and Marketing. And he's the first person to use the term inbound. Anyway, when we started getting these inbound leads, right, this woman, Catherine Durham, she invented the line, Catherine Fisher is her name now. She invented the line, what were you looking for help with? Which you've already notated is a great way to start a conversation, right? But it was awesome because now 90% of my time effort went away. I could spend more time helping customers. Right. And so I'm talking to Mike Volpe. I'm like, get me more of those leads. I need more of those leads. And he laughed because, that's kind of the basis for the whole company. I'm like, that's unbelievable. Get me. He goes, I can't. I'm like, what do you mean you can't? I need them. He's like, well, I have to create more content. I'm like, well, create it. He's like, I got to hire somebody to do that. I'm like, well, hire him because I got no more headcount. And I'm like, all right, I'll give you headcount. And he stopped. He was drinking scotch on the 6th floor of the CIC at 1 Broadway in Cambridge. He stopped. He put down his scotch. He goes, you would give me sales headcount for marketing. And it was easy for me because the headcount wasn't really mine. It belonged to Robert's. I'm like, yes, I will give you sales headcount, right? Because it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's Smarketing. And it's sales and marketing put together. Some people think it's smart marketing, but it's sales and marketing pushed together. And it's so true, right? Today in 2020, right, the companies that have alignment between sales and marketing are the companies that are successful. And I can prove it, right? The basis for the inbound revolution isn't just my opinion. Everybody has an opinion. I have the data and the facts. And the companies, according to Gartner, Aberdeen, Forrester, that align sales and marketing, which, by the way, in the old days when they were separate, like, functions, that was one thing. But today, right, if your marketing organization isn't bringing leads to your website, you're pooched. Forget about it. I don't care if you're the best salesperson in the world, you're not going to hit your number, right? And if salespeople are writing their own emails, right, they're wasting their time, right? I want marketing to write my emails, and then I want to use templates and sequences to automate the low content work. That's what a modern salesperson does. They're smart enough to realize how a professional should write all of that material, and then we're just going to use the template that scores the best against that demographic or persona or ideal customer profile. And what happens in 2020 is very interesting. People swarm. Are you familiar with that term, swarming around, where somebody comes to your website, they spend an hour and a half, 45 pages on the website, right? They look at everything and they swarm and then they ghost you, right? Which is like a dating app kind of thing. You familiar with the term ghosting? Doesn't look like you're on Tinder a lot now. So just double checking. But like, right, then they won't do anything for 9 months, right? Then they'll come back, right? And if you're notified when they come back, you're like, hey, I saw that you were on my website in January. Like, you looked at 45 pages. And if you say that, all of a sudden you move to a different category. They're like, how do you know that? And like, we have lead intelligence. We know every time you're on the website. We know what emails you're opening. We know if you're using video, how much of the video you looked at. So I'm like, Alan, you only looked at 4 minutes of my 12-minute video, right?
Okay, let me pause you there for a second. Take a breath.
I know.
So let's say we've got a lot of small business owners listening to this who they may have 1 or 2 sales reps, or they're just on their own. How do they incorporate that type of technology into their sales?
Super easy. So first of all, small businesses are at an advantage. It's the first time in history small business has an advantage. Small businesses are typically better customer interaction, because they have fewer customers, so they can give that personalized kind of relationship, right? But every company in the world today has to be a technology company. In the old days, you could say I'm nonprofit, which means I don't invest in technology. Today, every company is a technology company. And if you're not, you're at a competitive disadvantage. You have to use technology that's easy to use, right? All the things that we described, it's all in the HubSpot free CRM. So you can get all of that free from HubSpot. And why do we give you free software, Alan?
So you can see how good it is and you can upsell us to the stuff we pay for.
A couple of reasons. You got some of them. Number one, do you like free stuff?
Everybody likes free stuff.
Why? Why do you like free stuff?
Because it's free.
I know. Actually, the studies say the reason why you like free stuff isn't necessarily because the utility you get from it. It's because you think your cousin Fred is paying for it and you're not. So you think we're treating you special because we're giving you an advantage, right? Yeah, you're like, no, other people are paying for it. I'm not paying for it, right? So your lizard brain thinks that you're getting a better deal, which is somewhat true. Number two is exactly what you said. You get to use it without any risk, right? And I've had people come up to me in airports and say, Tyre, I have used the free HubSpot software for 10 years. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, why are you embarrassed? They're like, I've never paid you a dime. I'm like, I don't care. right? HubSpot is like worth $10 billion. You know why? Because we like help a lot of people. Have you ever referred somebody to HubSpot? They're like, oh, hundreds of people. I'm like, you're paying your way. And if that's what you want, right, it leans right into the new way of selling, right? You're in control. No one wants a salesperson tracking you down saying you should upgrade, you should upgrade, you should upgrade. No, Alan, you want to upgrade when you're damn good and ready, right? And you want to pay what you want to pay, right? And the whole sales motion in 2020 is to give more power to the buyer. The more power I give you, the more you like it. The more free stuff I give you, the more you like it. The more positive attribute you have about our technology and our vision, the more you're going to talk about it, and that's how you build a great company.
Well, that's a great segue, because I have a segment on my podcast called Ask Alan, and I get questions emailed to me and answer them, and I obviously have my guests answer them. And I was going through them last night, and believe it or not, Mary from Providence, Rhode Island wrote, I just signed up for HubSpot. I'm not kidding. This is a real email. How do I use this to my benefit in a sales situation? So obviously, Mary, Dan is answering all these questions, but is there anything specific you can tell her and other people with HubSpot that, besides sign up for the free stuff, is there anything specific? You know the software better than I do, so I'm going to have you answer that question.
Yeah, so HubSpot does a lot of different things. We have free marketing software, free sales software, free CRM. And the key is to figure out what you want to do, right? Is it Martha from Providence?
Mary.
Mary has to, first thing, she has to understand what her goals are. It's always good to move from a spreadsheet over to a CRM, because CRMs will allow you to leverage technology to better understand your customer, right? But if she has 3 customers, the first thing you have to do is define a program of how she keeps those customers. We call that the flywheel. This is kind of controversial. I'm interested in your thoughts on this, Alan. I frequently say that your customers are more important than your sales team for generating new customers. And HubSpot has a term for that. That's the flywheel. In 2007, if you didn't have happy customers, it wasn't that big a deal. You just lost customers. Today, if you don't have happy customers, people are all over Twitter and Instagram. You're toast. Exactly right. You have to protect those customers. And HubSpot has a concept about the flywheel. Have you ever heard of a flywheel?
I've heard of a flywheel, but not in this context.
Are you a car guy or?
Well, not really. No.
All right. So people who are car people know a flywheel moves the pistons. People who are potters. Are you a potter? Do you make pots?
I don't make pots. No.
You ever see the movie Ghost?
Yeah. Is that the flywheel? The thing that spins?
Flywheel, right? Yep. Patrick Swayze.
Yes.
Who's a dead guy. I guess that's why they call him Ghost in the movie, right? Actually, he's dead now, poor guy.
He's dead now, yeah,
I know. I feel bad saying that, but he supposedly was a great actor. And he's like, Demi Moore is pushing on her flywheel to get the pot to go around. And a flywheel either has friction or it has force. The more you step on it, the quicker it goes. And then you put your hands on the pot so that you can mold it in what you want. And it works the same way, right, for your customers. Right. So the first thing you got to do in your flywheel is you got to make sure that you have happy customers. And the way you make sure you have happy customers, you got to call them. Right. And it sounds nuts, but I tell everybody, call your best customers. And they're like, why? And I'm like, to thank them. And Alan, has anybody ever called you and thanked you for being a good customer?
Can I tell you a quick story? This is a 2-minute story. So I'm a huge Starbucks fan. And they opened a brand new Starbucks. This was kind of during the peak of COVID. And they opened a new Starbucks near me in my hometown, which I never had one. And it was just a drive through this one day. So I decided the second day they're open, I drive through. And I have an FJ Cruiser. It's black. It's got a white roof. So you can see, my truck. So once I get my stuff, I pull around front because I had some time to kill and I'm using their Wi-Fi. And out of the Starbucks walks three women. They knock on my window. I roll it down. I'm like, hello. And she's like, I just want to introduce myself. She was the manager of the store. The other lady was the assistant manager and a barista. And she said, the barista just told me that she recognized your truck and you were like at a lot of Starbucks around the state. I want to come out and thank you for being a customer.
How did that make you feel?
I have never, ever had that experience ever in my entire life. A Starbucks manager came out and told me, thank you for being a customer. I did a video on that on LinkedIn. I wrote a blog about it. I sent the CEO of Starbucks a letter.
I know 1,000 podcasts. listeners know it. And so first of all, it's a great story. Second of all, the reason I was reminded how to do this is I'm the cheapest guy in North America. I don't even have a car, right? You're rolling around in that big black car. I have to ask my wife, can I borrow the car? She's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to the grocery store. She's like, when are you going to be back? I'm like, I'm going to the grocery store. I don't know, right? But I am the cheapest guy in North America. Like, I do not spend money on anything. And I dropped $300 on a partner dinner in Cambridge, right? And there was like not a lot of money because there were like 100 partners there. But the guy calls me back. He goes, it looked like you had a good time. I go, that was awesome. He goes, I wanted to thank you for your business. If I could ever be of service, just do the next meeting. Do it in my restaurant. And I'm like, who are you? Oh, my goodness. That is tremendous. And it was a great reminder. Now I tell all of the folks at HubSpot and all of the people that I work with, like, just call your customer. Just pick up the phone and say, Alan, my name is Dan. I'm the CEO or the principal of this company. I want to thank you for your business. You've been a business customer, just like your barista story. That's awesome. And they'll do the exact same thing. Yeah. And how much did that cost that manager to do that?
Nothing.
Zero. How much free publicity has she got from just doing something nice? And you feel great about it, and she should feel great about it. And all it is injecting the human process, right, into something that we've apparently forgotten. So the flywheel is circling the wagons, making sure that your customers are happy. Also,
and this is on HubSpot that you can actually use.
Yeah. Well, if you're on a spreadsheet, it's hard to know when your customers come to the website. It's hard to know the last time you sent them an email. It's hard to know about all that lead intelligence I was talking about. HubSpot does that naturally. It just does it natively, right? So every company is a technology company, but for a small business, they can't afford servers. So HubSpot's always in the cloud. They can't afford a lot of like training and customization. So HubSpot makes it super easy to do it. And one of the best attributes of HubSpot is, number one, it's a platform. So it integrates with all of your other applications like Google Mail and Outlook 365 and Zoom and Slack and GoToWebinar and 600 different applications. Number two, it's super easy, right? If she doesn't know how to use it, the first thing I'm going to tell Mary is that just go online, figure out what you want to do, right? And she can always email me, dtyre@hubspot.com. There's somebody at HubSpot, dtyre, Tyre at HubSpot.com.
Tyre, yeah.
Yeah, I get pinged 10 times a day. People are like, I hear you're Mr. HubSpot. I'm like, yeah, I've been there for 13 years. I'm at your service. What do you need to know? My website is in the public domain. People can get on my calendar, just like you, right? You got on my calendar, 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, Alan, how can I be of service, right? And my whole mission is to do the most good for the universe. If I can help somebody, right? HubSpot's tagline is grow better. We want businesses to grow better. That's not just profitability. That's not just revenue. That's grow better as a leader, grow better as a dad, grow better as a family, grow better as a culture, right? And anything we can do to facilitate that is it helps the brand, helps us, makes us feel good, right? And is kind of the right thing to do in a tough year, 2020.
And it also it creates revenue. Like one of my favorite books is Bob Berg wrote Go Givers Sell More. Yeah, you give, you're going to receive. It's you know.
I had never heard of that book until early this year, and somebody said, Tyre, have you ever heard of that? And I'm like, no. So he sent it to me, right, which is amazing. And it takes like a day to read the book. Yep. And all it says is the same thing that we've been talking about on this whole podcast, right? Yep. Figure out how to help somebody. You want to make $1 million, you figure out, first of all, I'm a big believer in personal responsibility and being intentional, which I stole from my wife. You should have my wife on this podcast. My wife is a smart Tyre. Like 90% of the smart things I say, I clip from my wife. Right? The other day, this is a good story. I'm at breakfast. My wife is quoting Martin Luther King. Who quotes Martin Luther King at breakfast? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm writing this down. And she's like, don't steal my content. I'm like, that's funny. She's like, okay, Dan, ratchet it down a little bit, which I'm kind of an excitable boy. I'm definitely a quick starter. That's what she calls me. Like, I don't like to just talk about things. What I like to do is do things, right? Yep. And I really like helping people because, like, I do help a lot of people, but it's the best job in the world. People say, like, why are you still at HubSpot after 13 years? I get that question all the time. It's so much fun. Oh, my goodness. Right? We're helping a whole new generation of HubSpotters, the people in the company, of HubSpot partners, of people like you, right? You just happen to get on my radar screen, but you're awesome. Like straight up guy trying to help other people. So I'm of service, right? And it doesn't matter. The magic words for Dan Tyre is I need help, right? And it's so much fun to help all these different people to see how they grow and understand how it works, to try to get them unstuck if they're stuck. And after 40 years of business experience, 5 startups, ultimate entrepreneurial cred. I'm an angel investor now. I serve on 4 boards of directors, right? I've been involved in 30 mergers. I've got a lot of experience and help, and I'm happy to give back, right? I got plenty of dough. I got strong relationships. I can do whatever I want. I got total freedom. What I like to do is I like to help people. And the same thing at HubSpot. That's like the shtick of HubSpot, is to how can you help more people? The one thing that HubSpot did teach me is process and scale. Actually, they taught me a ton of things, right? But process and scale is the way we do it in 21st century. And the podcast is a good example of it.
Well, Dan, we can talk for 4 more hours, I'm sure.
I know.
Yeah, right?
I know. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
we're going to.
It was 27 minutes. When you said this is a 25-minute podcast, I'm going, okay, this is going to be hard.
But listen, folks who are listening, Dan he's not blowing smoke here. Go to his website. It's dtyre.com, right? Tyre.
www.dantyre.com. Or you can go to the book I wrote with Todd Hockenberry called The Inbound Organization, www.inboundorganization.com. It's got tons of free stuff there, right? Mm-hmm. After 10 years at HubSpot, I believe HubSpot has a superior business model, both in execution as well as the partner channel, as well as the inbound philosophy. And I always thought inbound wasn't a sales and marketing tactics, but an organizational philosophy to help your company grow better. So I got Todd, who has been part of our ecosystem for 10 years, who's the best co-author in the history of books. The guy is kind, he's empathetic, he understands the material. He has done unbelievable to help our customers understand the inbound philosophy. By the way, we're given we have webinars all the time. Just go to www.inboundorganization.com. You'll see the upcoming webinars. And like the book teaches you this philosophy and how to apply it so that you can grow better.
Terrific. Well, Dan, I can't thank you enough. This has been an amazing 47 minutes that we've been talking. I'm sure my listeners are going to get a lot out of it. Visit Dan's website, send him an email. Like I said, he's not blowing smoke. He will respond eventually. He'll respond quicker if you send a video email.
That's right.
All right.
You and I both love video.
Thank you again. I really appreciate it. And everyone, this has been Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails with Alan Langer. Remember, if you want to send me a question for the Ask Alan segment, it's Alan, ALLAN, at allanger.com, ALLANGER.com. If we choose your question, Mary is getting a free signed copy of my book. And if we choose your question for the show, you will also get a free signed copy. Thanks again for joining. We will see you again next time.